authority, in terms of the topic matter, those conversion rates double and triple almost instantly the minute that authority relationship has occurred. So it's one thing to reach out to consumers who may be interested in what you're having to offer. It's another to offer them knowledge about what it is you do that they find compelling, and they come to you.
So there are two potential buyers for my services inside a company. And one is the chief medical officer,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
If I target the chief medical officer, I'm going to be working for the chief medical officer to solve the chief medical officer's problems.
Yes.
If I target the CEO, it's because the chief medical officer is failing, and he's going to fire that guy and hire me, or he's going to hire me and then fire that guy,
Yep.
right?
Yes. That's a competitive tension.
Right, so there's competitive tension within the organization because I'm either replacing the chief medical officer or I'm helping the chief medical officer keep from getting fired.
Mm-hmm. You want to make the CMO look good.
Yeah. So in Cambridge, Massachusetts, I play one game, which is to replace the chief medical officer.
Yep.
In California, I play a different game, which is to help the chief medical officer. And that's because there's a greater churn of chief medical officers in Cambridge than there is in California.
So typically the CMOs have a particular medical discipline that they're most associated with.
Now, there's a pretty big spectrum of specialty background
Okay.
and a pretty big spectrum of experience. But once they're sort of in a specialty, they stay inside that specialty.
Yeah.
But you don't find that they operate across therapeutic areas.
So in terms of helping the CEO make the decision to build or buy, typically there's a clinical component to it. And the question then is how much emphasis is being placed on clinical expertise versus operational and otherwise?
Most of the time, it's heavily operational.
Okay.
So they expected something and they're not getting it.
Okay.
They may have had a catastrophe, or things have been left undone for about 2 years, and now it's been disclosed and they're gone.
Yep.
Or the person leaves themselves and heads for another job, and now there's a vacuum and some regulatory reason why they can't have that vacuum.
Right. Yeah, so to wrap that up, what we would recommend is understanding the top 3 priorities from an operational perspective for that role. Build business rules around those operational priorities, and then survey the model to find matches.
Yeah, I think the universe here in San Diego is really, I think I can speak sort of universally in that the group here knows their audience. It's public.
Yeah.
Those names of the companies are not secret. It isn't private. BioWorld publishes them every day.
Yeah.
So we know the universe, and we know because of the nature of the business we're in, we're on their critical path. It's not a matter of whether they will use our services. It's a question of we're the ones they choose to use our services.
You have to understand their business, and you have to understand how you can make them look good in creating results.
So, but I think we understand it. What we don't have is we don't have right access to the right people at the right time, because this is a time business. You know, it's not like some of the large pharma where you can call on one company and get 6 projects. In San Diego, you call on 6 companies and get 1 project.
So let me flip the paradigm here for a second. Do you want that customer to view you as a salesperson or a resource?
A resource.
And how do you create that resource position with those customers?
They get to know you.
Right. So you have to find the data points that allow that connection to happen. And that's what we do. So I'm going to go through this next step really fast so we can get through the case studies, because I think the case studies are going to generate even more questions. And then I don't know about time, but
It's actually, we're getting pretty tight, so you
Okay.
might have to run all over. But it's,
so I'm going to go at the bullet points. From a normalization standpoint, typically we see data sets that are 80 to 85% high fidelity. The remaining 20 to 15% are questionable data. When you start to blend data sets, there's always outliers. There's always data that doesn't fit. We recommend you focus on the 80% that does, because it helps you address that bad data downstream instead of trying to get it all right from the very beginning. Make sure that data frame is in scope. Understand where your outliers are, and ultimately, when you're making data comparisons at the normalization level, be very clear about how you're comparing apples to apples in your model. So when you're in front of a decision maker weighing the pros and cons of a campaign or a service line, they understand exactly how you're lining these up. From a tuning standpoint, as you see the data, and this is why we recommend a monthly review of the data, you can modify your content to meet consumer behavior. What are your decision makers looking at more often when they want to understand your CMC capacity? Are they focused on 3 pages that articulate some of the technologies that you're using? Or is it more about workflow and process and how you're applying project management expertise based on your experience that's really optimizing the outcomes across that result? Understand where you have search engine optimization capacities with the engines, using keywords in particular that are relevant to your space. Increasingly, we see a direct connection between trust and video. The more video that you're able to lay out in your digital marketing campaign that is more specific about what value you have to offer, and then is time sensitive. You start with a 5-second clip, 10 5-second clips. Next you go to 30-second clips. Then you go to 90-second clips. What you're doing is you're following the Google micro moments decision-making paradigm that acknowledges consumers ping, ping, ping over 90 days, then they buy. And business buyers are increasingly acting the same way. So you need to be able to hit that 5-second knowledge span for many sessions and then offer them an in-depth surge session when they're ready for it.
They have to come to your site multiple times. That's the part that's hard to.
That's right. So what does behavior look like when you start to make these changes? Again, in the CRO campaign, we saw a fairly significant number of abandonments. So these are people that came to the site, saw it, and left. This is actually expected behavior. In that first 90 days, you want them to see and leave, see and leave, see and leave. Downstream, you start to see them buying. And also, increasingly near the end, we started to see more survey activity. They spent less time buying and more time surveying. Why? What can we do to flip that around?
Can I ask for a moment at the beginning, what changed in the campaign? In other words, there was the old message, and then you say, now here's the new message, or a new set of messages.
So the original CRO campaign was very focused on interventional stem cell treatment for orthopedics. And we then expanded the message and talked about the integration of electronic medical records in the patient course of care related to those encounters. So the campaign grew in terms of scope. And that's where you see those labels change over time, CRO to exchange.
That was that. Yeah.
Right. Right, through these labels here. So the value around the experience changed. It wasn't just I'm gonna get a better response rate on my knees or hips based on this technology. The experience of visiting those providers, interacting with those providers, and simplifying my concierge experience around it was also added as a value, and we saw an increase in the benefits. In acute care settings, you see valet service for X-ray departments now. There's a reason for that. Okay. We're most familiar with consumer response in that space with respect to acute care. For this audience, we recommend a tighter focus on business response. In particular, again, for video communication, leveraging your business partners and creating advocate marketing around those business partners. Where can you get testimonials and case studies that really resonate with your customers? Because again, that builds trust. Micro-targeting is really a core of digital marketing, knowing that customer, targeting to that specific set of requirements that the customer has. We live in an information age. We're not in a manufacturing age anymore. Every single decision maker out there is unique, and the more unique you can get to messaging those folks, the more effective you'll become. Don't forget about client feedback. Go to San Diego tourismauthority.com and look at the tourism experience there, and the first thing you'll notice is they ping you with a survey. Why? You want to leverage a unified model, intricate collection of the data points, and blending that into a model that makes sense, because ultimately if the model is tightly designed, the analytics perform very effectively in that Q&A cycle that they always go through. You want to sustain relevance. The game in search engine land right now is relevance. How relevant are you to a consumer who's looking for information? And what we've gotten really good at is making sure that when you do a search for orthopedics on the East Coast, Scripps, UCSD, and others come up first in those search engine results. How do we do that? We make your search and its results relevant to that consumer where they live and where they work. Increasingly, we're starting to see other visual media starting to play a role. Animated GIFs, you may be seeing more of those in Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn recently. There's a lot of abuse going on out there in that space also, so we recommend being careful with that stuff. Lots of B2B buyers out there, especially outside of the US. So what we're seeing again with one of our campaigns is we focused on the US and we're seeing almost a 20% hit rate outside of the US. Why? How do we understand that? Focus on the data points for micro targeting, client feedback. How many of you are doing any kind of surveying with existing customers today? And how effective do you find that? Do you get a good engagement rate?
Yeah, we get, I sent a survey to 150 and I got 40 responses.
And how many conversations came out of that?
I actually did reach back to it, so everyone that responded was willing to.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
That's actually amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh,
That's very good. Congratulations.
Then finally, triangulation. We're big fans of taking data points and bringing it all together. At this point, we have a couple different case studies, and we're almost out of time, so I'm going to let Guy step in here and do the case study for, actually,
When you go through quickly, that might be interesting for Jacksonville.
Yeah. Oops.
That's the PC. I don't think they may have a problem playing.
Yeah. I don't see it. No. This is the data for Jacksonville. You can see where most of those patients came in from New York. We brought in 3,000 new patients from New York, Pennsylvania, and Georgia to the Florida marketplace in a 12-month window. By working with our business-to-business partner, in that case, the Mayo Clinic, University of Florida, Baptist Healthcare, St. Vincent Healthcare, Ackerman Cancer Center and their Proton Center, and other players in that market. We're now repeating this experience.
How much money did that represent?
That, in terms of patient revenue, was just over 37 million in patient revenue.
It works.
This is the key. This is the conversion for that program. The yellow bar is the baseline they had prior to the project getting underway. And you can see a dramatic 300% increase in our Google organic feedback through our digital marketing campaign.
So that's how much traffic,
Yes.
and then how are you able to correlate that to revenue?
The revenue was done at the facility level because we're able to buy data from the marketplace that indicates patient point of origin and revenue associated with the procedures. There's not a direct correlation between these data points yet and those distinct consumers. We haven't gotten to that level on the ROI. In San Diego, we're exploring that right now because you guys have one of the best health information exchange environments in the country.
Tell that to my doctors.
Okay.
So we decided, actually, a project started 3 years ago with Baylor Burnham and several of the major hospital providers, UC, San Diego's healthcare organization, to look at San Diego having, we know the biotechnology industry is fantastic here, world class. What we don't realize is that people don't think of this as a healthcare destination. We have good hospitals, but nobody thinks about it that way. So the decision was made, let's promote this. We're a destination for tourism. We're a destination for high technology and medicine. So we have that aura in genomics and whatever. Why not put the 4, 5, 6 great hospitals together into a package? And so we all decided to do this. And going forward, moving very quickly, this is what our plan is. So we're not talking, this is not a small endeavor, but it's completely predicated on digital marketing. Without digital marketing, it wouldn't exist, because medical tourism is a digital marketing online phenomenon, period, for 10, 15 years. It would not exist unless we had the online process. So what's so beautiful about it is it's a very pure effort on that end. It doesn't exist except online. So we're looking at this, so we partnered in this program. So remember I said it starts with the brand. We created the brand Destination Care, Life Changing, which is an alignment with the now San Diego city and regional brand, which is Life Changing. You may be seeing that out across all the media. It was launched last week on this side, on this end.
With Bill Walton.
Yeah, so you may now, what you're looking at, that is the look and feel of this. This is the website, and you can go to Destination Care San Diego online and get to this website. And very simple, very straightforward. It talks about getting well faster in San Diego, the best place in America. And then we talk about world-class medical expertise, the centers of medical innovation, and these are all the major medical centers on that end. And of course, visiting here with the tour. So we're partnering with the EDC and with the tourism authority in town. So we're bringing the guns to bear on all these things. Now, interestingly, talk to this, please.
So what we do is we're data guys. We aggregate data from a variety of sources. What we created is a model that takes all the published ratings data for acute care organizations in the country, including U.S. News and World Report, Medicare, hospitalcompare.gov at the Medicare site, the Leapfrog group, which is focused on businesses, health grades, and others, taken all those data messages in the marketplace around quality and fused them into a single model. So that if Scripps says, well, how do we stack up against University of Florida at a national level, we can show them a score that compares apples to apples.
Which is this. Yeah. And you can see where all the hospitals going all the way down to Tri-City Medical Centers, and this is objective online data. It's not what they say, it's not what their marketing department says, it's what online consumers find. That's the power of this.
We localize it to the top 25 or top 10 markets. Each of these bumps indicate a geography where consumers, we have higher concentration of consumers who could benefit from knowing about those outcomes.
When you get online, and this is how it works, somebody's looking, and this is a case looking at radiation oncology, for oncology. So if somebody's surfing the net, this is what exactly happens. Google brings this up. And if you notice that, it's number 3, it's number 1 on the non-paid. It actually comes up as number 1 on that page.
It's important to note that this search occurred in Virginia, Georgia marketplace. So the search engines have search engine servers in every major metropolitan area on the planet. You do a search in Boston, you're going to get a completely different search result than San Diego. So your digital media outreach has to be sensitive to that local search engine's parameters and serve those up first in that local marketplace. And there's key strategies to make that happen, both at the consumer level and the business level.
Okay. You then get a landing page. The beauty of this is that you get a custom landing page for you based on your zip code, based on your position in the company you want to talk to, the person, that is optimized to exactly what they're looking to get as information. Robotically, this is reassembled algorithmically. So there's hundreds of thousands of these pages. We have no idea what they are unless we were actually typing in from Bethesda, Maryland on this end. And so this is what is done automatically. Now, obviously, we designed it, we wrote the messaging, we wrote the words, but the words are pulled out from each medical center on that end. And that's basically how the thing, this is the UCS